Hello, and welcome to Nostalgia Marcana. I'm your host, Doug Leaf. Each episode of this podcast, we'll look back on the movies, TV, games, people, and phenomena that we still love talking about all these years later, and ask ourselves why these bits of pop culture still enchant us today. This week, we'll be revisiting If you're wondering how America won the Cold War, it's because an aging pugilist from the city of brotherly love, Rocky Balboa, punched a guy in front of the Duma until perestroika became real. This is our podcast on Rocky IV. I'm really excited to be revisiting this one with my guest. You know her from several of our previous episodes, including Goonies and My So-Called Life and Adventures in Babysitting and favorite Disney songs, a bunch of stuff. Welcome back to the podcast, Tania Newton.
Yo, Adrian.
And she's brought another person with her to make this a family affair, because I know your whole family is big on Rocky. Please welcome Tanya's brother, Jonathan Cardoso.
Woo!
Woo! Totally. I'm worthy of woo-woo.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if you can earn your woo-woo throughout this episode. So, Jonathan, I'll start with you. We talked a lot about doing the Rocky franchise in general, and we kind of hemmed and hawed about, should we do number one? Should we do a different one? And we landed on Rocky IV. Tell me where Rocky IV, where your love for this comes from. Why are you nostalgic for Rocky IV in particular?
In particular, it is definitely the one I watched the most as a kid. My dad got us started on watching them when we were little, although I don't really remember the origins of that exactly.
Probably at an inappropriately young age to be watching Rocky.
I had a VHS of Rocky IV that had an Eddie Murphy movie on the back end of it. But regardless, it was something I'm sure I wore out the VHS. And just, Rocky, absolute favorite part is the montage after Apollo dies. It's just one of those things that just sticks with you, stays with you. I remember his Ferrari headlights going up. And just that would always just get me going, all excited, and just phenomenal movie, great, just feel good movie. And aside from, I guess, Apollo being killed and all, but everything besides that, wonderful movie.
And Tanya, how about you? What about your love for this franchise and this entry in particular?
Well, again, it goes back to this is clearly a family affair. We are a Rocky family. We've been watching them. I can't even remember when we first started watching them. I just have zero memory. They've just always been in the zeitgeist. They've just always been a part of our lives.
I can remember being in the Harvard house where we were stuck in the one bedroom before that lady moved out, watching the original Rocky on the little TV we had.
So that was like 1986, 87. So this goes back, 35 years at least, 38 years. We have been watching these things from the start. And, when coming up with this, what we Jonathan and I discussed, do we go through the whole franchise? This Rocky IV in particular just seems to be probably, I think, the most accessible. It's the one everyone can pull from. You now have the sort of renaissance with the Creed movies, especially Creed II, bringing back the whole U.S., Creed versus Drago. So this seemed like the best specific movie to kind of dig into.
Yeah, I agree with that choice wholeheartedly. This was definitely the entry I watched most as a kid, probably over and over. I've still never actually seen Rocky III, and I think the others. Yeah, I know. I've definitely seen one. Several times, 2 maybe once, 5 maybe once, and I think I did see Rocky Balboa as well, the 6th one. But for some reason, I kept coming back to 4 over and over and over again. And at the end of these podcasts, I always like to drop in just something a little funny, like a little parody of the thing. And so I went on YouTube and I was like, let's see Rocky parodies, and there's 9 or 10 Family Guy bits alone just on Rocky IV.
Totally.
And so there's got to be something about this entry, and I don't know if it's the U.S. versus U.S.S.R. angle of it, or there's something I guess all of the Rocky movies after 1 are a little bit of a cartoon.
Two still tries to stay with the drama thing, but yeah, they morph into something completely different when at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of those, like, of that strata of Rocky movie, I think this is the best example by far.
Yeah, agreed.
So, like, when you were kids, like, did you ever, like, get into boxing at all? Or was it just,
I always worked out with Rocky during his montage. That was definitely a signature thing that as a little kid, I would always be, trying to mimic exactly what Rocky was doing. That was a thing, definitely.
I mean, literally at our table right now where we're sitting, Jonathan's keys have a little boxing glove on them. This is,
Yeah, that is definitely from Rocky. Yeah. Yes. And I've loved boxing my whole life. I have a lifelong love of boxing that definitely flourished and has its inception at Rocky, certainly.
There's something very special about a boxing movie in particular, and like almost any boxing movie you watch will inherently be compared to this or probably the first one.
Definitely.
And it's like, I can't think of any boxing movie that even really comes close. Like, I enjoyed Cinderella Man, but it's not the same.
Raging Bull comes somewhat close, yeah. but in a totally different way too, because there's nothing feel good about Raging Bull. Raging Bull does not feel good at all.
No, Raging Bull is like the inverse of this, where it's just like you feel bad the whole time you watch it.
But phenomenal movie though. But yeah, it's definitely nothing. There's nothing pleasant about it.
But it is the magic of the character. It really is the magic of Rocky Balboa himself, Sylvester Stallone's portrayal, and just from 1 to 4, and we can go through it. I know, Doug, I sent you, when we first started talking about this, that article about ranking all the Rockies and the Creeds. I have a lot of opinions about that. Jonathan and I have argued ad nauseum about the quality of which Rocky. I mean, this is not just like a fly-by-night. We talk about Rocky.
It's definitely
way too much for being 40-year-old adults. But it really comes down to Sylvester Stallone created a character and portrays a character who just
is timeless.
Is appealing to men and women. I've been telling him over and over because we've been watching them. He is a poet philosopher, and not intentionally. He is a simple man, but he knows what he knows. He knows his heart, and this is how he's able to contribute to the world. He understands what his contribution is. He understands his limitations. And I think it's really, Sylvester Stallone just created, I think, just this fantastic storyline. And going back to the first Rocky, and I know we're going to jump back and forth a little bit, but they all are grounded still in the first movie, Rocky. It's called Rocky, a love story, because they are grounded in.
He might call it that, but
that's what it's called. Rocky. That is the second tagline, a love story, because they are grounded in this love story between Rocky and Adrian.
I mean, yes, he is adamant about the fact that Rocky is not a sports movie. It's a love story.
It up,
I mean, yes, no, he absolutely said that it is not a sports movie. It is a love story. However, that is not part of the title.
It's on the poster. We'll go through it.
All right.
Doug, that's for the Instagram.
Yeah, you've hit on something that I think is just the key to this whole thing, which is this character he works as an underdog no matter how many times he wins.
Yes, yeah.
Right? He only loses that fight in the first movie, and he wins every subsequent major fight after that, and yet
he loses in the third movie.
He still feels. Oh, does he? Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, he does.
Quite handily.
Yeah, but you still feel like he's invincible in a way. Like you just want him to triumph so much. Even at the beginning of this movie, right? Like they show you just how opulent his lifestyle is.
Totally.
And we'll talk about the robot, but like he's very wealthy and like still like he's come so far from this hovel in Philadelphia, but he never stops feeling like this little engine that could. It's almost a magic trick that these movies pull.
Very much so, yeah.
So let's talk about this particular entry a little bit. It was interesting because I know he felt like he wanted it to be a trilogy at some point, and he wasn't sure if he was going to come back. And they kind of enticed him by saying, "Well, let's put this international angle into it. Like, Rocky goes global.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it absolutely is the right move for the franchise to make it, it's the only place left for him to go, right? He's the biggest heavyweight in America, so let's send him overseas.
Totally. I mean, there's always the joke, right, that Rocky resolved the Cold War, but you're right, it was just the perfect time and the perfect place. It's just for this storyline, and
once he was in the vein of once Rocky became an action movie, because the first two were not action movies, but once they became action movies, there's nowhere else to go other than you got to go big and you got to go global, and obviously it does that wonderfully at taking the time in with the Cold War going on to put an enemy in that everybody could fixate on and say this is these are the bad guys, and it's there's no hard sell there.
Yeah, I think it's like if you're going to try and figure out what's the most Reagan era movie, it's kind of a tie between this and the original Top Gun.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes, very much. Yeah, totally. Right, I love this has created so many parodies. One of my favorite ones is the 30 for 30 from ESPN, where they have all the different sports writers of the day. They're talking about Rocky IV as if it was a real as if it was a real event, and it is one of the funniest things. They have Drago's trainer does a few little comments, but it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And to see all the actual ESPN writers taking part in this, talking about Rocky IV like it was something that actually happened, and completely giving Sylvester Stallone Rocky Balboa credit for ending the Cold War, and saying how that's why he ended up retiring because he was bitter about the fact that he didn't get enough credit for ending the Cold War, and so he just faded into obscurity after that because he was just bitter about not getting credit he deserved.
Well, that also kind of touches on something that you had mentioned earlier, this idea of a love story, because as much as yes, the movie is about the U.S. versus U.S.S.R., for Rocky, this time, to be cliche, it's personal.
Absolutely.
Right? The personal parts of the movie, he doesn't care about the global politics of anything. He just wants to get revenge for the death of Apollo.
Yeah. Yeah, and even that, I love, Adrian says something along the lines of, even if you win, we'll have you won, Apollo's still gone. And it's there's that whole, he just needs to make sure he has his hand on it in some way, shape, or form. He doesn't care if he loses. He doesn't care if he dies. He just wants to know that he, threw a punch in Apollo's memory, that he did something so that Apollo just didn't die without just that, a last gasp.
Yeah, I like how the movie, begins. They don't telegraph that Apollo's actually going to die in this fight for a while, but they do. You see it ends basically literally where Rocky III ends with them in the ring and Eye of the Tiger, and it kind of picks up pretty quickly with yep, this guy Drago's from Russia. He wants to fight Apollo Creed. Let's go. They don't waste any time.
No, but I don't. Yeah.
So Jonathan and I, we rewatched it again yesterday, just to get ourselves ready. And
I only saw 10 minutes of it with you.
But so we were talking about this, and I think that the beginning, that rehashing of that secret third fight between Rocky and Apollo at the beginning of Rocky IV.
Every movie begins with the ending of the last one.
But it set the tone that Jonathan had a really great, I think, insight into. It sets the psychological tone for where Rocky IV starts because it ends with that, or Rocky III ends with that iconic, the punch scene where it's who's the artist? Where it's all the colorful artists where they're punching. It's that last iconic scene.
Yeah, it turns into a still image, sort of. Yeah, painted. Yeah, drawing.
Right, and the lore is who wins the third fight, and actually supposedly it's resolved in Creed. Jonathan and I were talking about that yesterday. And, what Rocky says in Creed is that Apollo won the fight. So, and we were discussing the merits of whether or not that was valid or not. Jonathan's point was, it sets it up psychologically. If truly Apollo won that third fight,
there's a reason he wants to get in the ring with Drago. He's been given all the confidence in the world from having just beaten the heavyweight champion of the world behind closed doors or not, to go and say, I want to get back in the ring. And he has a perfect opponent in this, guy coming over here with all this hype and all this
amateur that I'm going to come in here, I'm going to kick his ass because I'm riding a high.
Yeah.
And it was just this cool thought of just, it sets up psychologically where Apollo is, and the bravado and the, oh gosh, why can't I think of the right word? Hubris that Apollo walks into the ring with. It stems from that fight, from supposedly winning that fight.
Yes.
I like that analysis of it. I think, Apollo, they do a lot with him. Both of these guys are past their prime and they don't know how to deal with that. And Apollo in particular deals with it pretty poorly, but he doesn't know how to do anything else. Right.
I don't think I want to hear this, Stallion.
Oh, come on. Hey, Apollo, look. You were a great fighter, no doubt about that. But look, we got to face the facts, too. You don't want to believe it, but maybe the show is over.
And that's easy for you to say. You're still on top. What happens when you're not on top? Then what? Where do we go, Stallion? Because we sure as hell can't be born again.
No, we can't be born again, but, let's face it, we got to change sometime.
I don't want to change. I like who I am.
I like who you are, too, but look at that, You don't want to believe this, but that ain't us up there no more, pal. We can't do that the way we did it before. We're changing. We're like turning into regular people.
Nah, Stallion. Baby, you think you're changing. But you can't change what you really are. And you can forget all this money and stuff you got all around you, man, because it don't change a thing. You and me, we don't even have a choice. See, we're born with a killer instinct that you can't just turn off and on like some radio. We have to be right in the middle of the action because we're the warriors. And without some challenge, without some damn war to fight, then the warrior may as well be dead, Stallion.
That's it. That's his only goal in life, is to punch things. And what's left after that? Although, he's done a lot of coaching. He's been the ringside man for Rocky after Mick died. So you would think that there was this off ramp for him into that world of coaching or teaching. But,
but when he says at the end of the third movie or beginning of the fourth one, that he'd been thinking about that for 3 years. Basically, he's saying, to some degree, he stayed close to it because he wanted a situation where he could get in Balboa's ear and talk him into letting him train him. So for the sole purpose of getting him in the ring again, which is, I think, one of the, shows you how maniacal Apollo is. And that was his sole focus for every moment since he got beat by Rocky, was getting him back in the ring, whether that was behind closed doors or not. But it's, when he says, how long have you been thinking about this? For 3 years. And it's like, well, gee, this is very clear that this is a single-minded man.
Yeah. I also love the kind of he's already had this, super patriotic motif, for all he's always wearing the America shorts and the Uncle Sam hat.
Yes.
And so ever since the first one, that's been the thing. So to have him ultimately be taken down by, this Soviet wrecking machine is, it's fitting. And I love that, actually, before we even get to the match with Drago, we do have to talk about this ridiculous party scene. But I found out one cute fact about the robot, which is, apparently the robot was designed not for this movie or as a prop, but it was designed to help autistic kids.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Stallone first encountered it because his own child was autistic, and they used this robot, to help him with work through his issues, and he liked that so much, I'll put the robot in the movie.
Happy birthday, Molly.
What is this?
Your present.
Yo, I wanted a sports car for my birthday. Not no walking trash can.
Oh, come on. He looks great here.
It's extremely psycho, Rocco.
Well, since you don't have any friends, we thought you'd like it.
Yeah, pretend you're happy. Well, you'll keep you company when you're all alone.
That's a great-looking guy.
Please make a wish.
It's creepy. That talks, that thing.
Creepy? These are great. I wish I had one of these when I was growing up. Come on, make a wish like he says.
I wish I wasn't in his nightmare.
And now he absolutely hates that robot. Which is, I think, one of the funniest things about that is he's been saying for years how much he hated that robot, and then when he did the director's cut just recently, he omitted the robot from the movie.
Really? It's a scary robot. I know it's meant for kids. I find it kind of bug-eyed.
It is off-putting.
And, upsetting.
It is off-putting, especially when it's Polly's love interest. It is equally off-putting.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious when he changes it to the sexy voice. Mm-hmm. He's like
disturbing, yes.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Yeah.
Well, and funny that the programmers were like, we should give it a sexy voice option. People are going to want that.
Yeah, exactly.
I love also Polly. Of all the people in the world, how the hell did Polly figure out how to make her sexy? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not yet.
I mean, I guess she's a her now, but how did Polly figure it out? Polly can barely function.
I'm sure they had a 1-800 number we could call. Something.
He called tech support. That was it. They talked him through
Simple
it.
enough. There's a switch on the back that says sexy.
Well, there's this weird kind of like tension in the movie, in the idea of like, oh, you've got like the capitalist West that's so decadent, right, against the Soviets. But then when we actually get there, it's like, no, Rocky's going to be, hauling logs through the snow, and it's Drago who's got the like state of the art equipment and stuff.
I think
it's also such a Go ahead.
No, that's it is a fun comparison watching them train and watching that whole thing play out. That he's got this amazing facility, and there's literally built to harness every single thing he has. And Rocky's out, running in the snow and falling down, and running up mountains and stuff. It makes for a very fun.
The training montage is fantastic.
Yes,
it is a great side by side.
Yeah.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So way before we get there, so we have the scene where we have the birthday party scene. We have the scene where essentially the Apollo is dared to face this guy in the ring, and I love like all the scenes with Drago's wife and his trainer, because obviously Drago they've decided to make him fairly he barely says anything in the movie, so somebody has to kind of be the voice of villainy here, and they're both so good because they sort of are two different sides of the same coin. Like, I don't know that is she even his wife or what? Like, does she love him? Like, she just seems just as sinister as the other guy.
Absolutely,
well, yeah. And so she was Sylvester Stallone's wife, right? In real life?
Yes.
Yeah, Brigitte Nielsen.
Brigitte Nielsen. And then so in the movie, she herself was also an Olympian.
Yeah.
So they were clearly in the Russian, factory, sports Olympian factory, all getting doped up together.
Well, especially when you think of, again, where this is in time in terms of like, you had the Miracle on Ice in 1980.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Again, the Cold War played out in the Olympic stadiums. So you have them, they're both Olympians, and he's, I guess, a military guy of some sort. He's like Colonel Ivan Drago.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. But I think he's in like full military dress.
Yes. I think that was typical for a lot of the male Olympic stars, though. I think they have a famous wrestling guy who was wrestling champion for many years, and I'm pretty sure same thing, Colonel in the Army, whether or not they actually served, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they were all given some kind of title.
Commissions.
In that regard. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, whether it was real or not, or all just for propaganda, who knows?
Right.
With some of these guys, but like, what do you think? I'm curious. Give me your thoughts on like Ivan Drago as a villain, because the series gives us a bunch of different villains over the course of it, but he's interesting.
I think his menacing is, you can't get around it. He is definitely when you first are glimpsing him at his training facility, and he's the whole whatever he hits he destroys kind of thing. It's hard to ignore that, and then you see him get into the ring, with Apollo, and he's just standing there, just not reacting to anything. And when Apollo hits him with, they go to hit gloves, and his gloves don't move. The fear all over.
It's the
Creed.
first second that he registers, oh shit,
there's a problem here.
This is something.
Yeah.
I would say though, for me, Ivan Drago is more of a prop for the U.S.S.R. You're right. The wife and the politician coach guy, they are more of the active villains. They are the ones talking shit. He is the prop. He is the tool, the hammer for that. He can execute. He has no charisma.
But I would say, yes, to a point. But the moment they start fighting, when those gloves don't move, and Apollo registers the fear, and then they actually start fighting, and he starts beating the crap out of him after the first minute, Apollo's looking halfway decent, dancing around and hitting with jabs and stuff. But then when he starts fighting, he becomes incredibly sinister and incredibly menacing. And when Apollo's being beaten to crap and he throws the referee across the ring, that's not a sportsman. That's somebody trying to hurt somebody else.
That's like being a Manchurian Candidate. It's like being, what's the guy in the Avengers? The Winter Soldier. Yeah, like he's the Winter Soldier. He's the Manchurian Candidate. He is literally a tool who has been trained to do this. Yes, he has been activated to turn on to kill. But I think he could be activated to turn on to do something else. He just that's what he was trained to do. I don't think his motivation, he doesn't have motive. He is just, it's a switch that's flipped on or off.
But if he's a sportsman, then there should not be a kill switch. I mean, you should be recognizing the fact that there is a difference between fighting and boxing.
But that's why I think he's a tool, not a sportsman.
My husband and I thank you for coming to our training quarter today. As you can see, it is highly advanced, and we wish to show the American press a small portion of the advances our country's made in the technology of human performance.
Coach Vince, what does all this do to enhance performance?
If I may answer, it makes a man a better man, a great athlete, a super athlete by harnessing all his strength. Though most of the world is ignorant in body chemistry, we wish to educate your country.
There have been rumors of blood doping and widespread distribution of anabolic steroids in the Soviet Union. Has Drago partaken in any such experiments?
No, Ivan is naturally trained.
Then how do you explain his freakish strength?
Like your Popeye. He ate his spinach every day.
I think he is a tool of the country.
The Olympic pedigree would suggest otherwise.
Yeah, no, I do think that he is a little bit of a victim here. Like, there's definitely a point in the movie where, like, I feel bad for him. Like, it's very clear. Like, he is a pawn of a fascist government, and that's very clear from the beginning. You know, they don't. You know, whether he has anything to say, he doesn't talk a lot. But I'm guessing they wouldn't let him talk. And I'm sure if he didn't do what they told him to do, he'd be shipped to Siberia. So there's a lot of this, like, you know, does he really want to kill Apollo Creed, or is this just like, you know, he's been brainwashed, or he's just so pumped full of steroids that, he just sees red all the time? I don't know. But there's definitely points where you start going like, this guy is being, you know, totally manipulated, or, you know, as you said, he's a prop, he's agitprop, right?
I mean, there's the point when, you know, as we skip ahead a little bit, but at the point where he fights Rocky, what he says is, I must break you. Because it is basically, if he were to lose, he would probably, like you said, get shipped off to Siberia.
Born out in Creed 2.
It goes back to he is a tool. He is instructed to do these things. So, I mean, that's where I see that. I mean, the more I watched it, I really felt like you see him in the ring with Apollo, where he is just like, this is a shit show. And I mean, Apollo Creed is a showman. He knows how to create a scene, and probably something that a Russian Olympian who's basically a slave has probably never seen anything of that like. But he is like, what is this? Just totally out of his element in that sense.
Yes, when you are all of a sudden assaulted with James Brown and, you know, and every single thing that goes along with that, yes, I'm sure that was a bit of a culture shock.
Well, yeah, you're talking about that scene, right? So before we get to the fight with Apollo, this is an exhibition match, and we get all of the showmanship. It's in Las Vegas. As you mentioned, James Brown appears and sings all of Living in America, which, Tanya, we confirmed ahead of time, written for this movie. And, like, they just let this music video play out, and Apollo's dancing to it, and you get this shot of Dolph Lundgren just looking around like, yeah, exactly, like a deer in the headlights, kind of like, I don't know what I'm looking at. This is confusing and scary. And I've been to Russia, and like, I get that. Like, I've been to Moscow and St. Petersburg. This was in 93. So this was not long after the fall of communism. And yeah, like getting the real look at what their people's lives were like in Russia at that time, it was like, oh, this is not at all what I thought it would be like based on movies and stuff. Like, I definitely think a person from the U.S.S.R. who was shipped over to Las Vegas to watch this would have no idea what they were looking at. It would be very confusing for them. But yeah, and then we get the fight, and they do not throw in the towel. Apollo goes down in the ring.
The referee tries to step in, and he's thrown across the ring. Put him down! I've never seen Apollo take so much punishment. Put him down! about to be disputed. Okay? Somebody get a doctor in here! There is no movement.
Yeah, that is, when it clearly something that stuck with Rocky for, that went through is that moment of holding the towel and, the other trainers tell him, throw the damn towel, and, Rocky has clearly Apollo's words ringing in his ear telling him,
do
no matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what, don't do that. And, he obviously wants to honor his friend, and at the same time, he's watching his friend get murdered. I mean, there is no other way to say that. And it is a pretty brutal beating that takes place. It is definitely one for, as a kid, I can remember like that kill shot. It's just, you cringe a little bit. I mean, not so much now, but as a kid, I definitely remember it bothering me.
I mean, even after the quote kill shots, he falls down and he's essentially seizing. I mean, it is graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably only second, I think, to like $1 Million Baby in terms of like a graphic thing.
Brutal scene, yes. Oh my God,
that's about the.
I would actually say $1 Million Baby is worse. I would say $1 Million Baby is worse than that one. But just
that's what I'm saying. This is second.
Yes. It's the only thing that just drives me crazy to this day. It bothered me when I was a kid. It bothers me now. Is there's no event like that would take place where there would not be a doctor at ringside. Like that whole get a doctor in here thing is just that drives me insane. It's just like. There would be a doctor at ringside any fight. There's a doctor at ringside.
Yeah, although I doubt there'd be anything they could do with that.
Yeah,
they
totally.
make a point of showing you. Yeah, they make a point of like, he punches like 3 times harder mathematically. They show you the numbers on this.
Yes, right? Totally. Yeah.
He punches harder than anyone alive.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's significantly harder. And what did they say? Whatever
1,600.
It was like I think he averaged 1,800 pounds per square inch. But whatever he hits, he destroys. That's the line. And clearly, that is the case.
How does that not explode your own elbow as you like punch that hard?
Well,
would just go straight up your arm and then.
I mean, the amount of like HGH in his system. I mean, he's
HGH yet, but
whatever
they were taking at the time.
The
clearly,
80s U.S.S.R. version of HGH is what he was on.
Well, they show you those like canisters of whatever. They're like blinking like red and yellow lights on it and stuff. It's like, super like futuristic drug.
Yeah. He's Captain America, essentially. He's Captain U.S.S.R.
Yes. Very true. Yeah. Superhero.
What's that guy's name? It's David Harbour's character now. I can't remember his name.
From
the Black Widow.
Yeah. And the Thunderbolt movie that's coming out.
Yeah, he's the only good part of that movie. Anyway, so like he dies in the ring, and we have this like this movie really doesn't have any kind of subplots, but to the extent that there is one, it's just like kind of Adrian's worry about him, and we get that scene where he comes home after this kind of just driving around to montage music.
That's Jonathan's favorite.
I love
scene.
that. I love that song to this day. I love that song. That's a great song.
Yeah, I just watch and like he goes through like you see them flashing not only like stuff from this movie, but all the way back to the first one. As he's remembering, the entire story here for us, because his friend just died, and it's clearly eating at him. But I do like the scene with him and Adrian where she's like, what are you going to do here? Why bother fighting him?
Before there were reasons to fight I could understand, but I don't understand this. Even if you win, what have you won? Apollo's still gone. Why can't you change your thinking? Everybody else does.
Because I'm a fighter. That's the way I'm made, Adrian. That's what you married. We can't change what we are.
Yes, you can.
You can't change anything, Adrian. All we can do is just go with what we are.
You can't go with what you are. Have you read the papers? Do you know what everybody says? It's suicide. You've seen him. You know how strong he is. You can't win.
Adrian. Adrian always tells the truth. No, maybe I can't win. Maybe the only thing I can do is just take everything he's got. But the baby, he's gonna have to kill me. And to kill me, he's gonna have the heart to stand in front of me. And to do that, he's got to be willing to die himself. I don't know if he's ready to do that. I don't know.
And she always got her moments to shine in those movies, and that was definitely her moment to shine. And they were always she's great when she's strong. I always loved Adrian when she actually had something to say.
But again, it goes back to this is a love story because the two of them are better because of each other. Adrian was a mouse. She couldn't say anything. She, bullied by her brother. She was, but his love, Rocky's love for her, Rocky's, she is still his primary focus. I mean, I would say actually, except for probably in this movie.
Yeah.
Except for in this movie and the rage
totally,
and the anger in this movie, his love for her, his respect for her makes her stronger. And that love and her strength, I think, again, it goes back and forth. It makes him stronger. It makes him see sense at some point. It makes him be able to refocus. But right, in this moment, this is, husband and wife, and she can't get through to him. Well, you're going to die. Someone's going to die. Why would you do this?
And he takes on all of Apollo's nonsense thinking in regards to not being able to do, people not being able to change. You are who you are, and that's all you can do is go with what you are. And, he obviously needs to get to a place where he's not going to think that. But in that moment, he's just adopting all of Apollo's nonsense thoughts and just parroting them to Adrian in justification for his choices. But, it goes along with that, what Tania's saying, that they make each other better. It's not until she finally comes to join him in Russia that the training in earnest finally begins.
Because in the scene, so after they have the fight, or after Adrian and Rocky have the disagreement, and then the next scene goes into the new press conference. Yes, there's going to be a fight. Rocky is numb.
Rocky, is the decision final?
Yes. Rocky, over here, please. Is this the first time the champion has given up his crown?
I don't know about that.
Doesn't the title mean anything to you anymore?
Not until this is over.
Coach Christie, considering Rocky's known punching power, do you still think this is going to be an easy fight?
Yes, of course.
It's a matter of science. Evolution. Isn't it, gentlemen? Drago is the most perfectly trained athlete ever. This other man has not the size, the endurance, or the genetics to win. It's physically impossible for this little man to win. Drago is a look at the future.
Champ, there's been no mention of it yet, but how much are you making for this fight?
No money. It's not about money.
Has the fight date been set yet?
December 25th.
Why Christmas?
That's what I was told.
Where?
It's in Russia.
Are you nuts?
Yeah.
Rocky is just numb. There's no emotion. He's just like, yep, we're fighting. It's in Russia.
Yeah.
On Christmas. Like.
Good impression there.
It's just in Russia. That's what I've been told. Like, he doesn't give a shit because he's just numb. He's not there. And it once they're in Russia, once he's been shitty training, she shows up. And that's when it's like...
And that's when you get the next montage, and Hearts on Fire starts. And it's, yeah.
Hearts on Fire montage is just fantastic.
I mean, there's a good 30 minutes of this movie taken up with music videos, basically, which is silly to some degree, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of called out that moment with Talia Shire, because you're right. Like, as I was watching this, I was like remembering the first movie and like, man, her performance is so different. Here,
totally.
This character has basically come a long way from the very timid character she was. This version of the character reminds me a little more of like her performances in The Godfather, where totally. She's much more assertive.
The funny thing is for the most part, Rocky and Adrian both have come a long way, and whereas like Paulie and I think every other character seems to more or less stay in their station.
Yeah.
Besides those two, otherwise, I think everybody else seems to more or less be exactly who they were throughout the whole series.
Apollo is the same until he dies.
Polly's the same, and Duke is the same, and I mean, they're all. Everybody just seems to more or less be right who they are, except for Rocky and Adrian.
And that's because they together made each other better.
Yeah.
And this is, it's always going to be, I think, a love story about them and how they together can overcome, in this the fighting or whatever, whoever the opponent is, communism. Their love conquers communism. Yeah. So.
Well, and Hearts on Fire, yes, it's an amazing montage sequence for sure. I think it's worth mentioning here. So this is the only Rocky movie that does not have the classic Bill Conti gonna fly now stuff. And apparently the reason was Bill Conti was off working on The Karate Kid at the time because he did the music for that movie. Mm-hmm. And in fact, The Karate Kid we did a Karate Kid episode a while back, directed by the same guy who directed Rocky 1 and was designed to be sort of a Rocky for kids. So it's interesting that like working on that movie took away, some of the key players for this one. But I like the music in this movie. I think these are really great montages. I think the Hearts on Fire sequence is, it's awesome. It's so 80s just to have him run up a mountain and scream Drago. Yes. If that's like the Simpsons level of like McBain, like that's what it sounds like to me. Totally.
But it's just like, his, yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, it just clearly the moment she gets there and she shows up, and there's clearly a passage of time because, he's full grown beard. I mean, they're clearly working on this it's got to be a couple of months, right?
Yeah, they don't really make clear when the Apollo Drago fight was.
Window is a little
weird. It seems like it has to have been at least a couple months because there's no way you go that full beard.
That beard is immense, but you see him. He's clearly overcoming even like the Soviet spies who are watching him. Yes. He helps the Soviet farmer lift the giant, plow thing. He goes up the mountain. They can't follow him anymore because they're clearly spying on him to make sure he's not training any better or doing anything trickier than Drago, who's got every possible.
Yeah, I'd love to think that those two guys got fired after they couldn't follow him up the mountain.
Fired if they're lucky.
Yeah.
They went to the gulag.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that scene where he first arrives in Russia and they realize, these are our accommodations and these guys are going to be shadowing us. Yeah, that I think is the best comedy scene in the movie.
I mean, Paulie is,
Yeah, Paulie always gets his moment to shine too. That's
And he's listening to the Chipmunk song. He's listening to the Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas song over and over and over again.
And I love when he falls in the snow. When he falls in the snow, that is just it's pure comedy. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's good physical comedy from him for sure. Because I don't even know, that could have been ad lib for all I know, or accidental.
Yeah, totally.
It's hard to tell. It looks pretty good as a fall. But yeah, I mean, I feel for this. Like, I have no idea where they are in Russia. They could be in Siberia. Like, probably not because that's too far from Moscow. But like, yeah, man, it gets real freaking cold there. And like, watching them struggle through that. Could you imagine for just like months? Do they even have electricity? I mean, I know they're evoking this idea of like surviving that is what trains him to be able to beat Drago. But yeah, it's just funny to me again that like in reality, like the Russians, like as they're kind of proving right now in their war with Ukraine, it's like a lot of show, but when it comes to it, they actually don't have the technical superiority.
I think at that point, probably they were still in the middle of the Cold War. Then I think they probably were a little closer to having the ability to back up what they were talking a little more then than now. But I'm sure to some degree it was always a little, smokescreen. But definitely more ability to do it then than now.
Well, but I do like the way that this is edited from, between, because you're cutting back and forth. It's not just Rocky's training montage, it's Drago's training montage as well. And kind of watching him in all these machines and there's like all these blinking lights and it's that level of like 80s sci-fi where it's like, what do all these blinking lights even fucking mean? It's just a bunch of like, boxes with lights in them on a soundstage somewhere. But it's just funny to me. I'm just like, oh no, that's measuring his hormone levels or something. It's great.
Yeah, so the lab coats with the clipboards, checking stuff off, and it's like, what are they doing?
You know what I thought was interesting? I was talking to Jonathan about this. One of the trainers I was like, oh, there's like a black guy trainer. And I was like, oh no, he's
Cuban.
He's a Cuban trainer, and which makes total sense because during the Cold War, you'd have Russia and Cuba and be, would be close, allies at least. And because I think in like the 80s, I was like, how many black people were there really in Russia?
Sure,
and it took me a long time to realize, oh, they clearly imported this guy for the purpose of being, for being a trainer.
Well, the Cuban boxing program is for decades been the premier amateur program. So yes, they would have gotten the best guy.
I like that touch of realism. Then I never even noticed that.
Yeah, when she mentions it, I think to start the Bridget Nielsen, she mentioned something about the great. She names him the great Cuban trainer. She names him.
It was like a Hispanic-y name. Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, she does name check him.
Yeah, and she's an action badass in her own right. Like,
yes,
she's
totally.
Red Sonja. She's been in a lot of stuff. So it's interesting to see her here, kind of, only in a purely acting role. No, no punching, no kicking from her. But she's scary as hell.
Yeah, she is.
She's intimidating.
She was crazy hot back then too. She was just something. She was. I can understand why he would have wanted to marry her, although apparently she was absolutely crazy. So I can certainly get why he divorced her then too.
And we get to the fight finally between them, and just as like it's the opposite of the Apollo fight. Like there is no like pomp and circumstance really. Yeah. This is just like, yep, let's get in the ring, standard boxing stuff.
Yeah, no, I think they definitely celebrate the shit out of Drago.
I mean, they unfurl that and then they unfurl that whole gigantic flag that is just like Drago.
Yes.
Like airbrushed.
Yes, like
Drago.
like God of War.
So I mean, it's nowhere near as extensive, and yes, you've got the Russian national anthem, but they unfurl.
No James Brown.
No James Brown or the Russian equivalent to whatever that would have been.
They have the Politburo. They have clearly he's supposed to be. What was the
Gorbachev?
guy? Yes, thank you. Yes. They clearly have everybody there. This is a big fucking deal. I also was curious. I was like thinking, just like politically, would sports commentators have been allowed to go there and actually commentate on a fight like this? I mean, the whole thing, I was thinking like, how are American sportscasters there? Are they letting them there? I mean, do they want them there? So Jonathan and I watched the director's cut. Like when we were originally going to do our recording a couple weeks ago, we watched the director's cut, which is, I actually hated the version. Jonathan and I were supposed to see it a few years ago, like when they. It
was a one night only thing at the movie theaters after we released it. Yeah.
But in that director's cut, there are little bits and pieces where, like I said, they took out the robot. But there was a scene where I think, if I remember correctly, they were going to try to have the referee almost call it for Drago. There was like one very small bit where clearly if it was going...
I don't even know what you're talking about.
If there was even a slight chance, if it was about like a called fight as opposed to, like a mixed decision, it would have clearly always gone to Drago. There was something in that director's cut where the referee did something weird.
In the
director's cut.
I fell asleep when I saw it in the theater, and I woke up right as the fight was ending. So,
but in the director's cut, because we watched it, and I remember it because I hated it so much.
Interesting.
I found it to be, as a director's cut, I actually found it to be poorly cut. It was very choppy.
We worked on that for a long time too.
I found it to be shit versus the original version. And Jonathan explained there were certain elements why he emphasized certain things, took out other things. But there was this very, very small tidbit where the referee tried to do a little something sketchy. Which is why ultimately, and that's part of what in the training and in the fight, Duke was like, you gotta knock him out. This is not a fight that can go by a decision. This is not who wins rounds. It's got to go by knockout. Otherwise, you're never going to win.
Funny thing is, Rocky never won a fight that wasn't by knockout. Every fight he ever won was by knockout.
Right. But for the politics and the visual, they would never have let it happen.
Which makes
so
sense.
it's interesting that why would you to invite the sportscasters is all I was getting back to.
But to mirror the actual world, I mean, that's how it is. I mean, in actual fights, and especially in the Olympics, that is what happens. I mean, there are. It's a very dirty sport. It always has been, and people get hometown decisions. That's just how it goes. That's it's
my assumption is they would want some American sportscasters there because they want to display their dominance, right? If they're going to win, they want everyone to see that they won. And it's interesting that they cut that bit, Tanya, because I can see why maybe for pacing reasons it might interrupt the flow of the movie, and maybe the director's cut doesn't work as a whole. I haven't seen it. But I actually like that angle. I think that's really cool to have an element of no, you have to win by knockout because it's corrupt.
Yeah, they're never going to let you win. They're never going to let you win. And like I said, it was just a smidge of a scene.
I'm going to see that because I clearly, I must have.
Because I was like,
sleep through that.
As a very strange comparison, growing up, my grandma always had a VHS version of The Sound of Music. That is the only version I ever saw for the first 12 years of my life. I had no idea that the Baroness sort of voluntarily relinquished her hold on the captain. I always thought it was the captain saying it's not going to work. But she at some point reading the room is like, I'm going to let you go. Because I only had the version my grandma had recorded from the TV that was the VHS version. When I saw it for the first time, I was like, what the fuck is this? She was a fucking villain. So when I saw, just seeing that small tidbit, I was like, what just happened here? So it was something I fully remembered from this shitty version of this stupid director's cut. I'm still
Clearly.
Every time, we don't talk about it often about the director's cut because I hate it, but it stuck with me because I found it to be terrible.
Just to go on that tangent for a bit, I have yet to see a director's cut that I like better than the original theatrical movie. I've certainly seen director's cuts where there's lots of interesting stuff. And I'm like, that's fine as an extra on a Blu-ray. Let me see those deleted scenes. They add context. They're interesting. But yeah, a lot of times folded in, it's like, nah, you're monkeying with stuff. Even when it's good. There's lots of cool stuff in those Lord of the Rings extended editions, but I don't like them better than the original because they ruin the pacing.
Yeah, totally, yeah. Mel Gibson has a great director's cut for this movie, Payback. That's a fun one. That one I enjoyed better than the original, I think.
I will have to take your word because I have not seen the original or the cut. But this is this is such a great fight. This might be my favorite individual boxing match of all of the Rocky movies, and it is brutal. And I know that for part of it, they were actually hitting each other.
And Debbie almost killed him.
Yeah, he punched him so hard that his heart started to swell, and he had to go to the hospital for 8 days. And it's talk about art imitating life, man. He really can punch.
The insurance company at first wouldn't approve the claim because they said that the damage was more consistent with a car accident and your chest hitting the steering wheel. And then, he literally had to send them footage of Dolph Lundgren hitting him to say, this really happened this way. And then the insurance company paid up the claim. But originally they rejected the claim saying that he was lying about how it happened. He's a big dude. Dolph Lundgren's a big man.
And a smart guy, too. We did a podcast on Masters of the Universe a ways back. And, I had no idea the guy. I mean, he was he has a PhD or something in chemical engineering or master's degree. He's very smart.
But he's also was a former, kickboxing champion.
Yeah, he's worn a lot of hats. Yes. But, he is just – he's so – I mean, Stallone, the joke is that he's small. But, they really play that up. They make Ivan Drago look like some 7-foot slab of iron. He's so just, especially with the haircut and everything else. He's terrifying.
Yeah, he's menacing. He has a total menace about him, and just that whole if he dies, he dies. From then on, it's there's no questioning this man's intent at that point. It's whatever.
So going back to just the beginning of the fight, what I was realizing is at the beginning of the fight when Rocky and his crew and Duke and Paulie are all walking out, there's always a scene at that beginning right then. Paulie always has this very sweet moment of talking to Rocky and being like, I know I don't always say the right thing. I know I'm a jerk. But I love you, Rocky. Be careful. If I could what he says, if I could ever just walk in somebody else's skin, it would be yours. And you have this beautiful moment. He kisses him on the cheek, because they're still that's his brother.
Hey, Rocky, I know you're kind of busy just now, but I want to tell you some things I never told you. I know sometimes I act stupid and I say stupid things, but you kept me around, and other people would have said, drop that bum. You give me respect. It's hard for me to say these kind of things because that ain't my way. But if I could just unzip myself and step out and be someone else, I want to be you. You're real hot, Rock. That's good. Now blast this guy's teeth out. I'll try.
And they have this lovely scene, and then they walk into the ring, and you see Drago walk into the ring, and right before the fight starts, and Polly's like, remember what I said about, being in your skin and being you? He goes, I take it back. Because Polly, as much as he's, he is just so rough around the edges, I don't actually know if there's anything but roughness on him. It just the comedic timing sometimes with Polly is just fantastic. Yeah. He's so funny.
Yes, always breaks up the seriousness very well.
Yeah,
and obviously, we know, obviously they've shown us that fighting this guy can be fatal, and they know they don't let that tension drop, because it's a very tense fight because they don't. Very little dodging I've noticed in this fight.
Well, yes, their defenses get yes. Yeah. There is no defense in the Rocky movies in general. Yeah, it's. I mean, to the point that it is slightly silly that every single punch lands pretty much. But when I think the end of the first round, it ends with saying they're going to have to stop this one before somebody gets killed as Rocky is hurled to the ground. But yeah, they don't ever let that tension. You forget that this guy has killed somebody and that Rocky is in danger every second this fight is going on.
Where, already he clearly there's already some kind of, the first fight is just straight face punches, the whole thing. Is this the one, I can't even remember, where he's like, I see three of them?
Yes, yeah.
Where it's like, and that's
Polly's
first season, he's like,
hit the one in the middle.
Hit the one in the middle. Hit the one in the middle. He already has his brain scrambled. It's not going to go well even when he wins.
Yeah.
Which then makes total sense, yeah.
I was saying they make that point in the fifth movie, which is that you can't fight anymore because of this fight with Drago. Your brain is damaged, which is exactly what you would expect to happen from watching it. Because he takes so many hits to the head. It's like there's that joke. There was that to go to The Simpsons again. That episode where Homer becomes a boxer, and the coach tells him, like, "Well, see, you've got this protective layer of fat around your brain, so you can take an infinite number of punches." And it's sort of like that. That is clearly like a nod to something like this, where it's like, geez, because that first round goes so poorly for Rocky, so he's really as you said, he's already in trouble by round two.
Yeah, and then I think that it's just a matter of the Russians obviously don't have any respect for Rocky. They all think he's gonna obviously he's gonna get killed and Drago's gonna go right through him. But that's when Rocky becomes Rocky, and in the second round when they're all in close and he finally starts trying to fight back.
Yeah, he gets the hit.
He gets
the punch. He got cut. He got cut.
He's cut. Russian's cut. And it's a bad cut. And now it's Rocky Balboa coming after Ivan Drago. This is shaping up to be a personal war, and right now, it's anybody's boxing match.
You're doing good, Rocco. I could do better myself.
Beer the glass. That's what's all.
Got him hurt bad. Yeah.
Now he's worried. You cut it. You hurt it.
Because number one, Drago's never had to have any defense. He's never had to be prepared for defense.
He's the one going forward without worrying about anything coming back at him.
Going back to what you said, Doug, about Miracle on Ice, because I really like that movie, Miracle.
Great movie.
Is the stamina. is he doesn't have the stamina because he's never had to fight a true fight. He is, he gets tired faster.
It's nothing they ever discussed, but yeah, there's no reason that Drago should have any ability to go a 50-round fight when he's been an amateur, which is 3 rounds, and then the only fight he had that was professional was obviously killing Apollo in the 2nd round.
Right.
So yeah, here's no reason you should have any ability to go anywhere close to 15 rounds with that pacing and
actually having a defense that's a viable defense. Yeah. So, Rocky, who is nothing but an underdog, all he is stamina, all he is built for taking it. No pain. That's what Duke says. That is Duke's mantra. No pain, no pain. Because all you're going to do is take the punishment until you can get him down, until you can whittle him down. Because Drago is not prepared for anything but being on the offensive. Yeah. And so the moment he's cut and he is like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, he has no ability to process that at that moment. He's never been in that situation. Yeah.
Well, it almost is like this idea of showing like he's not the Terminator, right? He's human. Or for another Arnold thing, if he bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah.
And like I love that moment because it's like you see that look over his face of like it's like I actually am vulnerable.
Yeah.
He's never had that thought occur to him.
Exactly.
Before.
That's what and then Duke is yelling at him in the corner after that round, saying, you heard him. He's not a machine. He's a man.
Right.
And then I love it when they go back to Drago and he's like, whatever he says, he's like a piece of iron.
I mean, there is always that moment in every Rocky fight because he's always the underdog where all of a sudden the opponent is like, oh, fuck.
What I get myself
Rocky, because even which in my opinion is I think the best of the Rocky movies is Rocky Balboa. I love it. I love it so much. But he's like, he says something about how his punches are so strong. I mean, he is never taken seriously. I mean, he's been the fucking world heavyweight champion, and yet he is always underestimated. And yet they always find this moment of like,
the fighters might understand him, but the trainers don't. I mean, Duke in the build up to the second fight in the second movie, they're saying Duke wants nothing to do with ever fighting Rocky again, and Apollo, says, I won, but I didn't beat him. And when he asked Duke, his opinion on that, and the guy says, look, this guy's all wrong for us. I saw you beat that man like I've never seen you beat anybody, and he kept coming, and he kept coming, he kept coming. It's like, we don't need this man in our lives. And, so for the most part, yes, the fighters don't seem to have any ability to actually respect Rocky, but at least Duke, trainer-wise, he certainly saw what Rocky was and was like, we don't need this man in our life. We don't need to get anywhere near him.
Yeah, and we do kind of go into this, they kind of fly past a lot of the rounds. They kind of just montage it a bit to get to the end. But like, it's like you watch kind of Rocky just like as you said, he just sort of takes a licking and keeps on ticking. And that's his superpower, right? Like no matter how much pain you dish out at him, he will get back up again. And Drago does not know how to deal with that. And eventually I think he breaks his rib, or it's implied that he's broken his rib because he starts hitting him real hard in the side. And that's kind of the thing that starts really, now he's winded. He can't, fill his lungs up as well. That's going to start slowing him down. And it's just this great, you watch Rocky slowly dismantle Drago to the point where, of course, the crowd starts to turn on him. And I love that. Like, again, he doesn't say much, but then he gets that moment where he's like, screaming at them in Russian, and he looks desperate, right? He's scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, when you get the premiere, screaming at the guy, if you don't win this fight, you're a loser, you're this, you're that. And he picks him up by the throat and throws him. And he says, this is for me. Ladisla, whatever he says. I'm never going to get the Russian right. But he's like, this is for me. This is not for you. And then coming into the last round, and this is where the respect is shown. So here's an interesting tidbit. So in the last round, when they touch up the gloves for the last time, I always thought, and I think you did too, the line was, "You're dead." When they touch up, but I watch everything on subtitles now, which I love, and what he says is, "to the end," because I think that's a mark of respect. That's what Drago says to Rocky, is to the end.
Oh, I thought he said you're dead as well.
I've always thought that, but I watched, everything on subtitles, and which is the best. And he says to the end, and I actually felt like it added a different element of respect of we're in this. He had just basically thrown off the entire Russian, support and everyone that was already threatening him. And he's like, we're doing this. We're doing this for us. Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. And then of course we get the final punch, and the Rocky wins, and we get his amazing speech.
I came here tonight. I didn't know what to expect.
Когда я вышел этим вечером на этот ринг,
I seen a lot of people hating me, and I didn't know what to feel about that, so I guess I didn't like you much, none either.
Я думаю, что я не любил их тоже.
During this fight, I seen a lot of changing.
В течение всего этого боя я понял, что многое изменилось.
The way you felt about me and the way I felt about you.
И я почувствовал, что вы тоже изменились.
In here, there were two guys killing each other. But I guess that's better than 20 million.
Я думаю, что это лучше, чем даже 20 миллионов долларов.
So what I'm trying to say is that if I can change,
я думаю, что каждый тоже изменился сегодня.
And you can change.
Вы можете измениться.
Everybody can change.
Каждый может измениться.
Well, again, solves communism.
I mean, completely, just lets everybody know, if I can change and you can change, everybody can change. And, the announcer guy, the guy who's, translating is so enthusiastic about everything Rocky is saying. That's, I think, my favorite part about that is just how excited when he's actually giving the Russian part of that. He just looks so, moved by every word Rocky has said. He's just so excited to be conveying these words to the Russian people and just, wow, this is amazing. We've just been gifted this amazing moment from this amazing American.
Like I said, Rocky is a poet philosopher. He really is.
I will say this for that speech, which is it is incredibly it's the most gracious thing he could possibly say. It's not mean to the Russians. It's the most hey, we just we literally say something like we've been two guys punching each other here is better than 50 million or whatever, however he phrases it. It's you can't imagine the Russians getting mad at what he said because it was so well intentioned and not antagonistic towards them.
No, and then
that's not him.
And then when Gorbachev stands up and starts clapping, also it's it's just one of those moments wow. I guess the Cold War's over.
Yep. And that was it until Putin came along. That was the problem solved.
Yeah.
Right, problem solved. Well, I guess that's why we had to have Creed.
There you go.
Yeah, now I have not seen the Creed movies, but I know Drago shows back up.
Yes.
Yeah, so Creed 3 literally just came out now. It's on Amazon Prime.
I saw.
But we've seen Jonathan and I have seen every movie. We've been to all the Creeds in recent years.
As much as I enjoyed Creed 2 with Drago coming back, it was definitely not my favorite one. That's
Creed 3?
Creed is definitely,
Creed.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
Phenomenal movie.
Agreed.
Just from top to bottom, phenomenal movie.
So, I guess if we had to do, which I don't know if we're there yet, I will do my ranking of all of the Rockies.
Sure. Go for it.
Rocky Balboa is my sentimental favorite, which comes after Rocky 5 when he's old and he fights Mason the Line Dixon. And it's just, again, going back to the poet philosopher, he's sitting there talking to his son, Milo Ventimiglia, a.k.a. Jess from Gilmore Girls. And he says, when the son is just like, why are you doing this? Don't do this. And he says, what's wrong with standing toe to toe and saying, I am? And it's just this scene where this is who he is. Again, it goes back to he knows exactly who he is. He knows how he can contribute to it. And it is a beautiful movie. It is. Jonathan and I talk about this. I mean, just that scene, watch it. I can't even imagine And Jonathan apparently had the ability to be at that fight.
Yeah, I fucked up on that one.
And like, I can't even imagine being at a Rocky, like being able to, as fans, having an opportunity to be like an extra watching a Rocky Balboa fight. When we saw Creed 3, there's a scene where it's supposedly at Dodger Stadium. And in the middle of the movie, and we're like, what the fuck? How did neither of us know about this? We would have taken days off to sit in a shitty seat in Dodger Stadium just to be there. Turned out it was filmed in Atlanta and it was all CGI, which made us feel much better. But so, going back, long story longer, Rocky Balboa is my number one, followed closely by Rocky, the original, because it's the original. It is excellent. But it is, it's sad, and it
is sad. I mean, he has a sad life.
It is a sad movie, but it is, and then I think that would be followed closely by Creed, the first Creed, and then probably Rocky 4, and then probably Rocky 3, and then Creed 2, Rocky 5.
You put Rocky 5 above Creed 3?
I really like the street fight. I think the street fight in Rocky 5 is fantastic. I love the sweep when he like sweeps his legs.
And you love
to me, that's the best.
Get up, you son of a bitch.
That's yeah. I mean,
that's like your.
So there is, but that doesn't just come in Rocky 5, is it? It's only okay. Yeah. So in Rocky 5, there is a scene where, in the street fight when he's down and he is reliving a conversation that Mickey has with him, where Mickey's like, "Get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you." And every once in a while, I will say to my children, my 3.5 and my 6-year-old sons, and I'm like, "Get up, you son of a bitch, because mommy loves you." And my husband walked in on me saying that once, and he was so horrified. He's like, "How dare you talk to them like that?" And I'm like, "No. This comes from nothing but love and admiration. And if you even understood Rocky and Mickey, then you would know I am not I'm not cussing at my kids. I am motivating them, but it is, I still say this, and he is like, shut, he's like, don't talk to them like that ever again. But I literally am like, get up, you son of a bitch, because mommy loves you.
I'm not sure it's okay.
And then followed, I think, by Creed 3.
Wow.
It is inappropriate, but I am okay with. I'll own it.
I think I can't remember the number of times I've looked at my children and said, "I watch Eating Thunder and Crapping Lightning."
So that's my ranking. I don't know how far off is yours?
Not terribly far. I'd have to really think about it. I'm not going to do that right now, but it's close. It's close. I mean, Rocky Balboa is a wonderful movie. It really is a wonderful movie. And knowing how long it took for him to get that made makes it even that much better, because he was basically thrown away by Hollywood, and nobody wanted any part of anything to do with him, and certainly no part of anything to do with bankrolling that movie. But when he finally got it done, it was nobody thought that movie was going to do what it did, and it was a beautiful movie. It really was.
I cry at the end every time. I love that movie.
I clearly.
Yeah, I remember when I watched it, I was like, this is way better than I ever thought.
Yeah, and I think that was pretty much everybody's reaction was, wow, this is not anything like I thought it was going to be. And it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, so now that we're coming to the end here, guys, I want to hear your thoughts on why it is that Rocky IV still kind of endures. As we mentioned, it's been parodied a million times. It's, if people are going to go back and watch a Rocky movie that's not the original, it's very likely going to be this one that they pick. Why do you think it is that it's had this long legacy of people just loving it so much?
Part of it, I think, is the revenge factor. I think everybody can get behind a good revenge story, but it's, the Apollo getting killed is a tragic, awful event, and, him seeking his comeuppance for that and seeking, to make sure, and like I said, I think that was only his only goal was to put his thumb on the scale and making sure he did something in Apollo's memory. And, I think that evokes, a lot of feelings that people just, that resonates. And aside from that, it's just the biggest action version, of all the Rocky movies. So it is the most popcorny one of them.
Tanya?
It is a lesson in foreign relations. I mean, any political science student should be watching this as international relations 101. But I think, as Jonathan really said, it's the most popcorn of the movies. It's the most fun. I mean, like when Rocky takes off his robe, I guess, for lack of a better word, when they're in Russia, I mean, his body is redonkulous. Like, it was just so ripped. I mean, it's always ripped, but I think
there was like muscle.
There was like if I remember correctly, I had read some article that part of even doing Rocky IV was a vanity project, because I think it was something like he had 4% body weight.
I think it was less than that.
Some crazy amount. And so when I watched it yesterday, I actually texted, you had left, so I didn't get a chance to ask you. I had texted one of my 3.5-year-old son's friend's father, who I know watches a lot of boxing. And I was like, hey, do they always oil themselves up like this? I'm like, by the way, I'm randomly watching Rocky IV. I mean, like, this is not a man I talk to on a regular basis. I'm like, hey, Ramon, I'm watching Rocky IV randomly. Do they oil themselves up normally? And he was a good sport and kind of answered all my questions. But I think it was just the weirdest thing. But I'm like, I don't feel like I normally see them like that
not a thing.
greasy. I mean, it wasn't just like... Because he's like, they kind of warm themselves up. I'm like, no, this was like greasy. And that's just straight up just showing off.
Totally, yes.
I mean, he is showing off that bod. And it is something else. It is just an 80s action palooza.
Yes, totally.
This is the most financially successful of the franchise. I believe it made over $300 million. And I saw it was the most successful sports movie until The Blind Side, which I think is 2009.
Oh, okay. Wow. Interesting.
Wow.
So it held that title for a long time. People loved this movie. Nobody thought Rocky IV would do that kind of business at all. And it just speaks to, as we sort of said, the versatility of this character. He works when he's a sad sack, struggling. And he works when he's like, the ultimate heavyweight champion. And you have here, I think, one of the most fun villains, that he's had in his rogues gallery. Certainly he beats the crap out of like Tommy Gunn or, even Mr. T.
Mr. T.
He's just, this is, when you think of like a Rocky villain, and I don't even think of Apollo as a villain really, because Apollo doesn't care about, he just wants a good match. He doesn't want to hurt Rocky personally. He doesn't care. So to me, you kind of have the ultimate showdown between like East and West and all of this stuff. It gives you so much to work with on top of a bitchin' soundtrack. And it's just like, if I want to watch a Rocky movie and feel emotions, I'll do 1 or 6. But if I want to just sit down and have a good time, this one's going to win out every single time.
It even starts the beginning, the literal beginning of the movie. Jonathan and I were just talking about this, is the beginning of the movie that, as soon as you get through, is it Touchstone? Whatever's the beginning, when the intro music starts.
The Union Artist thing?
Whatever, is it Union Artists? Is the two punching gloves. And you see them, and they're slowly rotating. So one is America, one is the U.S.S.R, and they're slowly coming together, and then they go, and they explode when they upon impact, and it is just
from
the beginning, you're like, yeah. I mean, you are ready to fight, and you are fuck the U.S.S.R. I mean, you are ready to get into this, and it is just it choreographed so well. Do not ever watch the director's cut.
All right. Well, I think with that, we can probably bring this to a close. I'll do a little admin, although I admit I'm kind of recording a bunch of episodes at once. And once again, I'm not entirely sure of the batting order. But recently you would have probably heard Tanya on our Disney Songs episode. We've got one on The Far Side, which I believe will come out before this. Terminator 2. Other movies in the mix, or things in the mix, are Back to the Future, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I have some other stuff coming down the pike as well. So good stuff, kind of a summer of bangers. So Thanks again, guys, for doing this. This was a treat. It was fun to go back to this movie, and it was great to talk with you about it.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. We're definitely around for other 80s Sylvester Stallone movies.
I'll keep that in mind when we get to Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Or Over the Top.
Over the Top. We were thinking about Over the Top. We're nothing if not arm wrestling fans.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So until next time, that has been one more entry in the Nostalgium Arcane.
Cold outside, my face is frozen, but this is where I've chosen to stay. And Adrian, my kid and my robot, they're all a million miles away, away. Training hard, going for it, time to make things right. It's all my fault, I owe it to him, I should have stopped the fight. Drago, no, you killed Apollo. I'm solving and I'm pulling and I'm coming to get you. It wasn't no mistake, you did it on purpose. Apollo, you're the best, I won't forget you. Drago, you killed Apollo. Yo.
One more fight, Stallion, one more fight. It's just an exhibition. I'm a former champ, I can beat this chump. And I don't need your permission. I'm telling you the sucker is toast. In 2 or 3 rounds at the most.
Drago, yo, you killed Apollo. I gotta chop you down, but I don't know that I can. I saw your eyes, your soul is hollow. You fight like a machine, I'm gonna prove that you're a man who killed Apollo. Yo.
Anybody can change, so you don't have to fight. He's too big and too strong.
He won't kill me.
He might. Anybody can change.
You married a fighter.
You got nothing to prove.
You're real.
No more battles to wage.
Thought about this a lot.
No more mountains to move.
While I was driving my car. 6'5", he's like a tree. This guy's been engineered. Me, I do things naturally. I even grew a beard. Drago, yo, you killed Apollo. With Adrian beside me, there ain't nothing I can't do. I'm gonna be a bitter pill to swallow. I'm running up a mountain now and calling out for you. Drago, yo, you killed Apollo. I'm gonna blast your teeth that I don't care that it's Christmas Eve. You can run, but the stallion will follow. I may have had my doubts, but now I'm here and I believe. You killed Apollo. Ja, din sjurva Piero. Ja, Sivia. Ja, Sivia. Drago, yo, you killed Apollo. You're looking really bad and it's the final round now. Drago, yo, you killed Apollo. It's time to say goodnight because you're going down now. When I first came to this country, I knew that win or lose, that most of yous would hate me, and I'd hate most of yous. But then you started chanting my name out, and I finally saw the light. Now I like yous, and yous like me. You're Adrian, you were right, anybody can change. Cause it's never too late, turning over a page, choosing love over hate. Anybody can change, even though it was strange. No, Adrian, I did it!